Good afternoon, good evening. I just wanted to say something funny to you guys, but this is evening where I'm at. It is 8 p.m. at night, and I just really wanted to come on and talk to you guys briefly about the law of intentionality. It was so important that I come on and talk about this law because I am starting my podcast back up. I am super excited about it. I've written so many books on leadership, and I still have a ways to go. There is so much I can say about my journey as a leader. There's so much I can say about just things that I've seen in the area of leadership that I believe need to be addressed. And it starts with being intentional. Let me just say that. I really want to be intentional, guys. I have not been intentional about doing this podcast. I have not been intentional. I'm just telling on myself. Can I just tell on myself? I'm a very transparent person, and I don't mind telling on myself, guys. Sometimes we always look to blame everyone for everything. But when it comes to leaders assume responsibility. Say it with me. Leaders assume responsibility. They take responsibility even for things that may not necessarily be their fault. But hey, I am going to assume the responsibility for my actions. And the reality is this. I have not been faithful at doing this podcast. A lot of my shows have been basically reruns of past episodes that people can go on and kind of download and listen to themselves. But I really want to be intentional about coming on and really talking to you guys about leadership so that you guys can be strengthened as a leader. There's a lot of leaders today that we have, good and bad, that you can learn something from bad leaders. Listen, hey, I'm here to tell you there are many shows that I can watch and pull multiple revelation from to kind of let you guys know that, listen, you can learn some stuff from bad leadership, okay? So, during my broadcast, I just want to let you guys know what you guys will be in for. I will be interviewing people. I will be talking to people about leadership. I am excited about it. This is a new journey for me. This is a new season for me. This is a time where I have purpose in my heart, guys. Yes, I have really purpose in my heart to be intentional about coming on and talking to you guys. So now let's get into the law of intentionality. Leaders are intentional, okay? If you want to be a great leader, you have to be intentional about your day. You have to be intentional about your growth and development. You have to be intentional about pouring into you and pouring into others. That's most important because you can't be a leader without having followers. That's just what it is. Okay, one of the things that you will learn throughout listening to me is I believe that leaders are born and they are made. A lot of individuals like to argue and say, they like to argue and fight with you and say, hey, leaders are just made. They're not born. But I beg to differ. Leaders are born and they are made. I really believe that each and every last person is a leader. We were born to lead. We were just born to lead in different capacities. But the making process usually determines our effectiveness when we step into that role. And so that's also important. I always tell people when I go speak, I like to ask the audience, everybody lift their hands, who all in the room believe that they are a leader, or how many leaders do we have in the room? And I love to do that because it's so funny, because most of the time, not even half the room will raise their hand. The reason why people don't raise their hand is because we have become a nation. Okay, listen to me now. The nation is doing this, guys. We have equated leadership with a position. Did you guys know that? Did you guys know that? Did you guys know that? We have equated leadership with a position, oh my goodness, when it is actually equated to a behavior. Yep. You heard me right. It's equated to a behavior. What is your behavior like as a leader? And so leaders are intentional. They are not lazy. We are not lazy. We are intentional about getting up and doing what we have to do. And I just want to tell myself, I have not been intentional. Okay? Listen. I can tell you some things that I'm waiting on. Oh my goodness. I am so ready and so waiting on so many things to come through for me. And I'm telling you, the reason why they haven't come through is because these last few months we've been in a pandemic and I have not been intentional, guys. I have not been intentional. I've been doing so many other things. But again, that's going to change. So I'm just going to give you 4 key points, okay, as to why individuals fail to be intentional, okay? And then I'm going to let you guys go. The first one is the assumption gap, okay? Now, I'm taking this information out of John Maxwell book, the 15 Laws of Growth. Okay, so you guys can purchase the book. It's an awesome book, but it's a book that will kind of like reshape your thinking, realign your thinking, and just bring clarity to you as a leader. And so I'm just going to give you 4 points on tonight. The first one, as I stated, was the assumption gap. The assumption gap. A lot of time people they just not intentional because they automatically assume they are grown. You know, that's what we think. Every day I wake up in the morning, every day I brush my teeth, every day I go to work, every day I go to school. I'm growing. Listen, have you ever met somebody that was 60 years old and was just what we like to call just an old fool? Now, I don't want to be calling nobody no fool now. Listen, I promise you guys, I am not trying to call anyone a fool, okay? Please charge it to my head and not my heart. I'm just saying, okay? Some people be like 50 and 60 years old and we think they should know. And they should know, but they don't know why. Because we have not been intentional about growing ourselves. We don't read enough. We don't apply ourselves to learning what we need to know. And that has a lot to do with the assumption gap. You know, let's just not try to avoid the obvious. We assume that we grow as we age, and that is just not the case. You have to apply yourself. You have to be intentional about what books you read and be intentional about where you're going. You have to be intentional about networking and connecting to the right people. You have to be intentional about getting up and planning your day and following out that schedule. We cannot automatically assume that we would just grow. The next one is the knowledge gap. Sometimes people feel like, hey, I don't know enough to grow. That goes back to the assumption gap. Listen, when you tell yourself, I don't know enough to grow, so I'm not going to be intentional about growing, then what that says is that you are assuming that you are going to grow as time grows. And we cannot get stuck in the assumption gap, nor can we get stuck in the knowledge gap, okay? You cannot make up in your mind that you just don't know enough to grow. The question is, are you willing to get the knowledge so that you can grow? Are you willing to connect to the people that can pour into you so that you can grow? Are you willing to read more? Are you willing to invest? That is, oh my God, investing is so huge because so many times people do not want to invest financially on their own growth and development. Well, if you don't know enough to grow, the question is, how much have you invested in getting the knowledge so that you can grow? That is the bigger question. So it's not a matter of, oh, I don't know enough to grow. The question is, are you willing to invest? How much have you invested? If you're looking for something to just be handed to you, you're going to be waiting forever. You have to start making moves for yourself. Leaders are movers. Leaders are pioneers. Leaders, they are shifters. They will shift things, listen, in your life. They will shift things in their own life. Leaders don't sit back and just let stuff fall in their laps. Leaders get up and they go get it. They execute. They apply themselves. I was talking to someone today about application. How many times do we see people failing because they do not apply themselves? So the law of application, what have you been applying? Okay, you can't apply nothing when you don't invest in the knowledge that you need in order to grow you as a leader. So now the next one. The next one is really big. It's the timing gap. Now, when you think about the timing gap, you can actually think to yourself, wait a minute. Do that have a lot to do with age? With me assuming that as I age, I will automatically grow? Nope. The timing gap is waiting on time. Sometimes people get caught up in the timing gap because they figure, listen, it's not the right time to grow. What do you mean it's not the right time to grow? Come on now, people. Listen, y'all got to help me out with this. You all really have to help me out with this. I am telling you, what do you mean it's not the right time? I cannot tell you how many people, listen, I have a school where I train life coaches, where I train counselors, and I'm telling you guys, listen, I cannot tell you how many people that I coach or how many people want to become life coaches, and their biggest thing is, well, I don't think it's the right time to grow. It's always the right time to grow. It may not be the right time to buy a house, but it's always the right time to grow. When you are a leader, it's always the right time to grow. Leaders do not wait for a book to fall in their lap. They go out and they get a book, they learn, they go out, they listen to a podcast, they learn, and they grow. Okay? So I want you to tell yourself today, it is always the right time to grow. Tell yourself, listen, it is my time to grow. I am going to grow. I am going to soar. I am going to grow beyond my current place. I am going to grow beyond where I'm at right now. It is my time to grow. Tomorrow isn't my time. Today is my time. Right now is my time. I know, it's 8:13 p.m. Central Standard Time, but listen, it's still time to grow. We're never going to get to a place where we run out of time to grow. The moment that you run out of time growing is the moment they are throwing dirt. I can't even get the word out, guys. But listen, the moment they look up and people look up and they willing you down 6 feet under. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If they willing you down 6 feet under, you right. Ain't no more growing then, because it's over for you. It is. Let me tell you something. It is over. When they willing you down 6 feet under, then that's your cue to tell yourself it's not the right time to grow, because you can't grow no more. Okay, because you're gone. Okay, so the last one I'm gonna give you today is the mistake gap. The mistake gap is just what it is. We tend to believe that we have to be afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes make us who we are sometimes, okay? Mistake teaches us how to create lesson plans. A lot of times mistakes are the very thing that make us problem solvers. I'm a strategist because of my mistakes. I learned because of my mistakes. I learned from my mistakes. I learned what not to do because of my mistake. And so you cannot be afraid to be intentional about starting your business. You cannot be afraid as it relates to being intentional about being a leader just because you're afraid you're going to make mistakes. Listen, I am embarking upon a new journey in my life, and fear, oh my goodness, fear would love to try to come and just rear its ugly head over me because I am embarking upon this new journey. But I am telling you guys, I am up for the challenge because why? I have invested in the knowledge. I have invested invested in the wisdom. I have invested in the revelation to make me a better leader. And as long as I have been intentional about my personal growth and development, I am going to rock. I am going to be the best leader I can be as I embark upon this new journey. So I really wanted to come on and encourage you guys. Listen, be intentional about leadership. Be intentional about working on your character. Be intentional about being a healthy leader. You have to listen. The only kind of leaders